Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In today's video, we are going to be driving every race car in Assetto Corsa Evo. Now, this game just early released. The game looks pretty good. You can see that these graphics look nice. But there is a lot of problems with this game right now, including force feedback, frame drops, and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to be trying these cars on two tracks on completely sunny weather. We're going to be racing on Laguna Seca and Brands Hatch and no in between, because I will go from 100 frames to 15 frames very quickly. So we're going to be testing out all the race cars. This video is more for people who play iRacing or are just really wanting to have a race car experience, maybe like ranked matches, because I want to talk through the feel. I want to talk through the feedback and how does the BMW and the Porsche Cup Car compare to iRacing. So we're gonna get right into that today. Let's try some race cars. So we have the BMW M2. This is a very hard car to drive in iRacing, in my opinion. It's kind of hard to keep in control. There's a lot of wrecks in the races. If you have ever raced this car in iRacing, it's now a free car. But let's test it out. Something I do like about this game is the PSI indicators. You can see where the heat is going into the tires. And then also, I feel like seeing the current lap in the top left is also pretty nice. It's very easy to read. But we have some problems in this game. The force feedback is not great, but hopefully we get a change there. I had to turn mine down quite a bit because I felt like I was driving a Logitech G29. But overall, my biggest highlight of this game as far as force feedback wise is you can notice all the small things that are going on in the track. But the big things are not great, at least right now. But with that being said, this car, it looks good, especially from the cockpit. The steering wheel looks nice. The track, it looks good. I'm excited to play some multiplayer on this down the road in about 3 months. I have a long ways out to actually, you know, look forward to something, I guess is the easiest way to put it. But you know, we're trying to stay positive here. I will say one thing: I don't have much pace on this track. I don't necessarily know it the best, but it's a good track and it loads right now. So with that being said, let's talk about the car. The car, in my opinion, feels a lot easier to drive than the one in iRacing. To me, it feels like it actually has more of a stable back end, which is nice. You definitely can still spin this car, and it still sounds pretty good, especially with the downshifts. We'll hear a good downshift here in just a moment. But we're gonna do about 2 laps per car. The engine noises sound nice. We're gonna do about 2 laps per car and just give a general overview of them. So as of right now, I kind of like this car more than the iRacing version, just because it's a little more stable. I couldn't tell you which car is actually more accurate in real life, but I at least like this car. You can get on the gas pretty hard, pretty early, and you don't just lose the back end automatically. The overall noise of this game also is pretty nice. You'll hear, if I run off the side here, it's got a nice little effect to it. And something, if you haven't played this game yet or seen any gameplay, we'll drive into the sand at the end of this lap just so you can see what it's like. But the sand actually slows you down in this game, and it's something that I haven't seen really in iRacing, where you just go flying through the sand and there's not really you just don't slow down. It's not really sand, if that makes sense. It's more like grass, but that's just my personal opinion. The tires start to get warmed up. This car really starts to feel very solid. I like this car a lot. It's definitely more user-friendly, and I don't know if that's because iRacing is just harder to drive in and maybe more accurate. I'm just not 100% sure. But overall, this car looks, sounds good, and I really don't have any complaints with the car. I kind of like it more than iRacing, like I said. Feels much more solid, in my opinion. But let's test the sand right here. Look how much we actually slow down. And then we actually get stuck. Like, it's hard to floor it. You gotta dig yourself out. Kind of reminds me of the old Gran Turismo 1 when I used to play it. But, yeah, I mean, overall, this car is solid. And the force feedback in it is nice. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. The next car that we have is the 488 Challenge. This car sounds amazing. I love the sound of this car. Now, I will say, the rear view mirror is pretty cool, just looking down at the dash and having that in the background. It kind of looks like Roblox right now. I haven't updated my quality because I'm a little bit nervous to update that and drop frames. But we're back on Laguna Seca here, and let's test this car. We're going to do 2 laps. This car, you know, I can't necessarily speak on the sound of it because I haven't, you know, watched a lot of videos to hear how accurate it actually sounds. But it is nice, and the next couple of cars that we're going to be testing are my favorites in the game, and this is one of them. So we should have a little more pace on this track. I'm pretty familiar with it. It is a little bit different if you play iRacing. Just some of the different curves that are here versus not there in iRacing. So you'll notice here, if you are familiar with iRacing, that is typically all sand on the right side of the track, and there's actually some pavement, and then there's an additional, ooh, this car's quick, additional little extra curve on the outside there. It's nice because I always get 1x on the outside of that curve. This car just kind of speaks for itself though. It's just a solid race car, something that you can notice, and it may be worth actually setting up the car a little bit better is you do get quite a bit of understeer, and I will say that is the biggest highlight as far as force feedback goes in this game. You can really feel what the tires are doing in this game, and I think it was a really good thing that they put in place. I would just like to be able to turn my force feedback up without it feeling super grindy, and I don't know what that problem is. I'm just hoping for an update. Well, let's let the car speak for itself here. We're just going to kind of turn a lap here and see what we can do. A little bit of a hot dog. Ooh, so much understeer. It does feel like if I'm going into a corner really fast though, like I don't really have a chance. I don't want to say save it, but I feel like I have to slow down a ton to be able to make the corner. It just, and I don't know if that's just like a feeling in the game or what, but it's just, it doesn't feel as smooth as iRacing. I don't really know how to explain it. Gotta take it easy here. We just have so much understeer right now. This car feels overall really solid. The only thing that this game really beats iRacing out on right now, in my opinion, is the understeer feeling in this game. It feels amazing. There's our 2 laps with a 488. Overall, this car's solid. It looks really good. And before we jump anywhere else, let's take a look at the replay really quick. We'll just jump about halfway through. The replay system in this game, overall, looks really, really good. The cars look very, very nice. And I'm excited for multiplayer too. Just because there's going to be some really good highlights in this game. It's going to look really, really good. We just need those updates to come along as quickly as possible. But let's jump into the next car. I have to try this car out. It's the Mazda Miata. Everybody loves this car. It's one of the biggest, most popular cars in iRacing. So we have to do at least a lap or 2 in this car. We gotta give this thing some credit. This car feels solid. They put in some work in this car, I would say. They did a good job on it. It feels pretty similar to iRacing because you have that big amount of oversteer, and there's not really any other cars in the game with this amount of oversteer. As you can see here, it feels pretty familiar with iRacing, where you're having to having to kind of correct the car a little bit. And overall, it's one of the more fun cars to play in the game. It kind of feels like it has more power, I would say, than iRacing. At least the game makes you feel like that. I feel like this game has a good, like the way it there's the skidding, and you can't really see it in the wheel, but when you have the force feedback turned up, it is it feels very nice, just feeling your car skid across the pavement instead of just kind of sliding and not feeling much from it, in my opinion, in iRacing. Starting to get a little bit framey over there on the gears, where you can kind of notice it as well. But this car feels good. That's a very familiar mistake that I make with the Miata. So, you know, pretty used to making that mistake. I will say something though. This car, for some reason, on the same force feedback settings, actually is stiffer than the Ferrari, which is kind of odd to me. I feel like this car is not as stiff, but it is what it is. But overall, this car is maybe not as good as the Miata on iRacing, but it does feel very similar. Like if you've always wanted to play iRacing and you've seen that, I just don't know how to take that turn. If you've always wanted to play iRacing and drive the Miata races, you're gonna get a very similar experience. Something that I think that this game should do is put the Mazda Miata only series just like iRacing, because this is a close competitor in my opinion. We just need those tracks to release and some updates, but let's go ahead and get into the next track. This is probably my favorite car in iRacing. This is the Porsche Cup Car with no ABS. This car feels pretty solid once again. You definitely need to make some adjustments to it because it does have some understeer, especially off the start. If you just decrease the toe, turn it more negative on all four options, it does feel a lot better and kind of produces a little more oversteer. But the sound in this car, I think, is where they almost missed. It doesn't sound like that transmission noise that we get in iRacing, or if you just listen to this car as a whole, it still sounds good, but it's just missing something, if that makes sense. But let's take this car around for a lap. This is the car that I probably have the most pace with and the most familiar with it, because this track is actually what is live on iRacing, this track car combo. So I've turned about a 124.5 in iRacing in this car, and I have raced this car a little bit on this game, and I haven't really came close to that lap time. I've been about 2 to 3, or honestly probably 3 seconds off, to be a safer bet. It just doesn't, it feels very, very understeer, and it's very hard to get understeer on this game. I will say that this car, if you're not used to no ABS, it may be harder to drive than the iRacing one, potentially. Luckily, I am a little bit more used to it, so it's not a terrible update, but, or not update, I guess game change would be the best way to put it, but it still feels pretty solid. I will say, when you're getting into these faster cars, the game seems to like not load, and this is where I am on like 30% brake, and this is, I continue to have this problem. I tested this car many times. I can't brake in that corner. That first turn, I literally cannot get it right in this game. No matter how different I take it, I have to slow down so much quicker than I do in iRacing, and I don't necessarily know why. That's definitely where I'm losing the most time in this car compared to iRacing. Usually I'm braking after the 3 board, but I'm braking a little bit before it. That's why I think that this car is a little bit harder to drive than in iRacing. But this is also the non-ABS version. I haven't tested the ABS version. Now, I didn't watch... That is crazy. Everybody knows in iRacing I am slamming into that wall. That sand slows you down so much in this game. I don't know if you guys can hear it right now, but even with this car, I have my force feedback turned basically all the way down, and it still just has this almost belt-driven feeling. And I have it turned so low. Let's see if we can get this first turn right. And after we try this first turn, we're going to jump into the last race car. Usually I break after the white line that I originally broke at. We actually got it right this time. This is my favorite car in the game by far. I want to keep this thing in Laguna Seca because I want to be able to push this car just so you can get a feel of how fast this car is. This thing is amazing. When the game gets fixed, the force feedback gets fixed, this will be the car that I will be sticking to in this game as of right now. It is unbelievably fast, and something that I noticed in this car, it is so fast that the game almost struggles to load frames sometimes because you're moving so quick. But the sound of this car, the backfires, incredible. You'll notice the force feedback, I can feel a little more force feedback in this car, and it feels more accurate. I think that, I don't know if it was just more optimized by the team, but we see a little slipper on the back end of cold tires. We may give this car 3 laps just because it kind of deserves it. We're sliding a little bit, but this car sounds good, the crackles, and has a lot of power. This car is a fast one. Overslowing a little bit just because it's so fast I'm not really used to it. The crackles in this car sound amazing. I don't know what it is, but it feels like this car is almost from a different game. If you haven't drove this car on iRacing, it is by far the best one. My steering, my force feedback actually feels normal in this car. It is fast. I'm very excited for the multiplayer races in this car. Brake a little deeper. We have ABS. Getting a little bit of a lock. I'm just going to let this car speak for itself. Sounds good. Feels good. The feeling of understeer. The feeling of the force feedback is incredible in this car. You can feel the tires with the understeer physics in this game, I think, are amazing. In this car. It's the only one that they got it really right. Still overslowing quite a bit. Everybody knows that this corner, I'm scared from playing iRacing getting a 1X in that corner. Because it doesn't really matter right now, but it's kind of weird not having sand on both sides of the corkscrew there. This is by far, this is the reason I would come back to this game, is just because of this car. It's actually a really good experience. You can see my force feedback actually kicking in here. It's actually taking like big hits. When you hit the hot dogs in other cars, you don't get that much force feedback, versus this car, you really do. See if we can pick up the pace a little bit here and turn more of a hot lap, going deep into the corner again. Tires are warmed up. Probably could stay in third in this corner, but going deep, spinning the car out of the exit. It's kind of hard to push this car a little bit. You gotta definitely get used to it, because you just spin it. It's got a lot of power. And this is where this game actually becomes fun. I'm really hoping that they can get the force feedback just like this car, or optimize like it, because this is a good time. People will enjoy this game if every car feels something like this. I went a little deep into the corkscrew. Probably just ripped off my front bumper. I really just want to emphasize, like, this car is, I don't know, I've said it 10 times already while driving this thing. This car feels like it's from a different game. Didn't even turn the best lap there. Try and get the brakes a little harder. I know that I'm not pushing this car to the limits. This is our last lap here. Let's see how fast of a lap we can turn. Try and stay in third here so we don't spin the tires on the exit. Still do just a little bit. Trail braking also feels pretty good in this game. I haven't mentioned that too much. A little bit of spin on the outside there. Ooh, caught the inside of the curb. You can hear my wheel just clipping as I hit that for no reason at all. A little bit of spin there, made us go too far inside, but that's okay. Full throttle out. That was fun. That was fun. See this? This is a smile on the face because it was an actual good car, good force feedback experience, and something to look forward to while you're playing this game. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe because I'm going to be live streaming this game and then also providing updates like this as we get more and more content released and just bug fixes and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to continue to provide updates. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope y'all are excited for cars just like this, and I hope that this game continues to progress and really just make cars feel more like this AMG because it feels incredible. It feels like it's actually optimized to the game, and it was just a fun car to drive. If you watch me play or drive the other cars, you'll notice that, I mean, I literally was okay with driving the other cars, and this one puts a smile on the face because it's fun to drive. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.